Yes, I am from Feast. Here I am. I'm also a Cornish bard. I'm quite proud of that. That's why that's my picture. I've only been with Feast since August 2023, so this is all quite new to me. This is my first time at Meet the Funders, and this is my first time giving a big presentation for Feast. So let's hope we're in this together and this is going to go well. I'm the programme manager. We offer community grants, which I will go into in a minute. Feast is a part of Creative Kernow. So I don't know if anyone's, I thought I'd just explain a bit about Feast and kind of our background. That is my email address, which is the best way to get hold of me, ellie@creativekernow.org.uk. I'm not very good at answering the phone. I'm part-time, and I will endeavour, Ellen will tell you how good I am at getting back to emails. No, I will endeavour to get back to emails as soon as I can. Who are Creative Kernow. So we're based down in Redruth in the Crowdgy. We're lots of different organisations that come together under 3 separate headings. So we've got Creative Economy Support, which is Cornwall 365, you might have heard of. They do like a What's On guide quarterly, and they provide advertising for events. I think they actually provide free advertising for festivals if you run a festival. Screen Cornwall, which is all about promoting locations in Cornwall for film locations, as well as professional film people in Cornwall and getting them positions, both to work on films in Cornwall and further afield. They also do work around Kernowic and using Cornish language in films, which is pretty exciting. They've got quite a nice roster of short films that they've put on this year. Crowdgy is where we're based. Some of you may have been there. Top of Redruth, West End. That is the creative hub development. So there are spaces there for artists. There's a lot of studios of different artists doing various different... Have I talked so long it's gone off? What's happened? Okay, I have talked so long it's gone off. That's me. Yeah, and then Carn to Cove. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Carn to Cove. The rural touring programme. It's really exciting. So basically, Francesca is the programme manager for Carn to Cove, and she has a, I can't remember what she calls them now, but in villages around the duchy, there are village halls, and she gets theatre, and she has circus and poetry and music and dance that you wouldn't necessarily get in Cornwall to come to not just the Hall for Cornwall or to the Acorn, they come to Quethioc Village Hall. That's just an example, so I think that's near here, right, Quethioc. I don't know if they are on the programme or not. So that's Carn to Cove. I Am Feast, which I'll talk to you more about in a minute. We have Sea Film, which is similar to Carn to Cove, but it's like a film club. So in village halls as well, we have cinema equipment, and you can join as a member of Sea Film, and it causes less issues around licensing and watching films in large groups. And then Arts Lab is a youth provision, so that's mainly going to schools, dealing with children and young people, and giving them access to the arts and culture. So that's, collectively, we are Creative Kernow. The creative communities, which Feast is a part of, is the charitable side of Creative Kernow. Feast. So why does Feast exist? So Feast is funded primarily by the Arts Council and by Cornwall County Council. We're funded to ensure that rural communities within Cornwall have access to the arts that they may not have access to otherwise. So trying to get into little places like Quethioc or St Just or Lostwithiel that are not necessarily accessible, that might have socioeconomic problems. It's easier for us to kind of do that and empower communities to access creativity in the arts than the Arts Council try and do it from up the road. Feast grants are all around culture, creativity, access to the arts. They're all about giving people, groups, access to things. It can be any art form, really. So it could be theatre, it could be a drawing workshop, it could be photography, it could be film, the whole range of the arts, basically. Anyone can apply for a grant. That could be an individual, an artist, a community group. There is no real limits on who can apply for a grant. What we aim to have is like communities co-creating arts projects with artists and applying for the grants collaboratively. So it's not an artist thinking, I like drawing flowers and therefore I'm going to get a grant to go and draw flowers in my local village hall or church hall without knowing whether anyone in the community actually wants to draw flowers. We really want it to be collaborative and co-created, so it's not artists helicoptering in, it's really from the ground up. How much can you apply for from Feast? They are not the biggest grants in the world. So we have open smaller grant rounds, that's £1,000, which has to be match funded by £1,000. So that can be in kind, or it can be cold hard cash, or it could be use of a venue, it could be somebody giving their time for free. So it doesn't have to be cash. And then we have larger grants that are only available once a year. So they're called the main grants. We're in a period of transition, so we're kind of looking at those. The pot for that, so there's two main grants. One is for participation, one is for audience development. Audience development is already closed for this year. There's £60,000 between those two pots. So generally, projects would apply for between 4,000 and 6,000. So we're not just funding one big project, we're funding lots of projects across the duchy, across the art forms. Again, that does require match. Everything we do requires match funding or in lieu, but generally, because it's a bigger amount of money, we would prefer there is some money, cash. How does it work? So we have an application form, so it's quite formulaic. It makes it easiest to keep it equitable and fair for everyone. I appreciate everyone hates forms. I hate forms. They're horrendous. We are in the process of reviewing our forms at the moment, and we've got a new form being launched on May the 2nd that we hope will make it really clear how the criteria match to the fields on the forms, so it's easy for everyone to fill in the forms, because at the moment, people filling in the forms for the first time may struggle a little bit. Experienced form fillers are very good at getting funding, aren't they? So the best thing to do is, this is like quite a unique thing to Feast, I think, is you can, if I have any time in my diary, talk to me at any time. So I've just got this really cool thing on Microsoft, I think it is, where if you want to talk to me, I can send you a bookings link. I have 3 mornings a week completely blocked out to speak to people about grants. So you can talk me through your project, you can ask if the funding's suitable, you can talk to me about anything really. And I think the thing about the form that most people struggle with is most projects that come through are fundable by Feast, but the way they're explained in the form is not always the right way to types of things that we want to fund, like around community engagement. Those are the real key bits for us, and sometimes the focus is just in the wrong area, which makes it hard for the panel to fund it. I'm starting a new Feast Roadshow, which I'm very excited about. So we're going to, at the beginning of each round of funding, we'll have a roadshow, one in the west, one mid-Cornwall, one in the southeast, and one in the north, where we'll just have a network. We'll meet for a couple of hours. Artists will get to meet other artists, community groups will get to meet other community groups. We can talk about Feast, we can talk through projects collectively. I think there is some duplication of projects that go in the same kind of geographical area even, and it's good to build those relationships. And also from my perspective, I do want to talk to everyone, I do want to help everybody, but I work 3 days a week. So if there's somebody within that geographical area that is an advocate of Feast and can help people with their forms, or just give them bits of advice as well, that's really helpful. It's community led, and it's all about the community supporting each other as well as me supporting the community. For the main grants, there are interviews as well. So the main grant process is the first stage application, which, as I said, audience development is already in. Participation, the closing date is Monday. So we get the first stage applications, then people are put through to a second round, second stage applications, and then about 7 or 8 of those will go through to the interview phase. This year, I am looking at making a standardised interview questions that will be sent to candidates before the interview, so they'll be able to give a short presentation which can cover anything they want to do, and then I think to make it equitable and also to allow people to prepare and ensure that they can get everything into the interview that they want, they will have the questions in advance and be able to write notes, refer to notes, and just know what they're going to be asked. And for the panel themselves, it's going to be more equitable because they're asking everyone the same general questions. Tips for applying. So this is around the criteria and the guidelines. There are certain things we don't fund, which I might cover later as well, but I can tell you now, we don't fund capital costs, we don't fund core costs, we don't fund research and development. So if that's anywhere in your application form looking like we're funding it, not that it's being funded by another funder or match funding is going there, then that will be an automatic no for the panel. And that's what I mean about tailoring your application form. There might be some element of core cost or capital costs in your project as a whole, but in your application form, you need to make it clear that the money you're getting from us is not for that bit, it's for the community engagement bit, it's around community and building stuff like that, because we just won't fund it. We also will not fund a project that is starting within 3 weeks of the decision date. So our turnaround time is really, really quick. So we would have, at the moment it is, anyway, we're looking at it. So we would have the deadline, and then 10 days later we would have the decision date. And then you would know fairly quickly after the deadline, really. It's only like 10 days to 2 weeks. You would find out if you've got the money, not like 12 to 16 weeks for the Arts Council. If your project is starting within 3 weeks of the decision date, automatically that is a no. So you need to check those dates out. Budget is where everybody seems to go wrong in terms of match funding, in terms of just being clear. The expenditure matches the income. We don't fund things that make a profit. So if you're saying expenditure is 2,700 and income is 5,600, why we would question why you would need the money from Feast. And conversely, we don't fund things that make a loss, because that's just dangerous. So if your expenditure is more than your income, including what Feast you're asking from Feast, then we wouldn't fund that. And the last thing is around match funding. It's really important. So up to £500, you don't need any match. And then anything over £500, so if you ask for £750, you'd need £750 match. If you ask for £1,000, you'd need £1,000 match. So first 500, no match. After that, they say 50%, but it's like 100% match, really, isn't it? I would say. So yeah. So this is something I love. If you run a festival, I don't know if anyone runs festivals. So we have the Feast Festivals Network. So I think we inherited it from Cornwall County Council. It was just like a bit of a email list of community festivals, from like Galawan to Salt Ash Shanty Fest, kind of all community fest, Lost Fest, a lot of community festivals. And we were lucky enough, Creative Kernow was lucky enough to receive some SPF Levelling Up funding to really kind of bring that group together, offer training, offer networking opportunities. We've had 2 forums actually in the last 9 days, where we've got together a group of speakers around a variety of subjects that the forum said that the network said they're interested, including fundraising, making your festival more commercially sustainable. I know that sounds a bit capitalist, but it's just about like what happens if the funding dries up. How can you actually support your festival in other ways instead of relying on the same people, the same funders, stuff around volunteering, stuff around EDI, and a panel made up of local government. They've been really great. We still have some money left to provide some more training. So if you do run a festival, and the definition of what a festival is quite vague, I've got to be honest with you, it might be worth becoming a member. You can find all the details on our website. You can be a member. If you have an annual event that's one day, that could count as a festival. Okay, that's what Lost Fest is. It's an annual event that's one day. It can be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It can even be, I think, Godolphin Cross have got what they call an archaeology festival that runs over a month. So, yeah. Well, it is an archaeology, it's quite cool, actually. Godolphin Cross is quite cool if you've never been there. They've got loads of cool stuff going on down there. So the benefits of being a network member is you get to network with loads of other festival runners and people that run festivals. Like, it's really quite, I think people find that really valuable. We do kind of an almost speed networking session at every meeting where you get to meet other people that have got shared problems or shared successes, and you can really kind of build a real great network of people. You get training for free. You can also then get funding from Feast that's specific for festivals. So for Feast, for festivals. At the moment, because of the SBF funding, we have an increased grant, which is £2,500. Normally, it would be £1,000, the same as the open smaller grants. And there's one round left, which closes on the 3rd of June. So if you have a festival that will take place before the end of December 2024, you could apply for festival funding for that. There's the upcoming date. So the main grants, as I said, participation closes on Monday. If you feel that you've got a project that requires a bit more money and also fits, the definition of participation is quite vague, but if the community is participating, it will fit the criteria. The first round is quite open, so as long as you've got something on your form that sounds like participation, that explains what your project is and it fits the feast criteria, you will go through to the second round, so you'll have a bit more time. I think the second round closes in June, so if you think, right, I could do with £4,000, £5,000, £6,000 for a project, you can try and get an application form in for Monday. Open smaller grants, as I said, the form's not available at the moment. We're launching the new one on Thursday even. So that closes on Monday the 3rd of June. And the next round after that will be September at the earliest. So if you've got any project running over the summer, before basically October, I'd say, you would want to get in on this round. I should say that we're massively oversubscribed. The biggest round we'd ever had before the last one was 37 applications, and then in the last round we had 63. The competition is quite tight for a relatively small amount of money. So if you do apply, especially for the open smaller grants, don't spend too long on the forms. It's all about getting the right information on there, not chapter and verse about everything. It's just kind of being succinct, because the panel, we had to have 3 panels last time actually, have to consider all the forms, and the kind of more succinct the forms are, the easier it is for the panels to get an idea. Otherwise they've just read through like basically War and Peace, and it's quite tiring. And then, as I said, the Festival Enhancement Grant, which is up to £2,500, and that closing date is the 3rd of June as well. And as I said, the definition of a festival, any repeated event year on year could be defined as a festival, and is. Terrific day this Saturday if anyone's interested. Porth 11 Food Festival this weekend, and Gay Pride in Falmouth. There we go. There's all the festivals we got going on this weekend. This has nothing to do with funding, but one day a week I work for Fun Palaces, which I don't know, has anyone heard of Fun Palaces? Oh, thank you. Oh, I was telling me 5 minutes, not that he's heard of Fun Palaces. I'm nearly finished. I'm nearly at the end. But Fun Palaces is a cultural democracy organisation based in London, founded on this kind of premise of bringing culture to the masses and letting them decide what they want to do and what culture looks like, trying to get people into new spaces to do new things, or new spaces to do the things they already do. So opening your doors and letting people come in and take over your space, be that a church hall, a theatre, village hall, and just like control the programming for a day or a weekend. Fun Palace, I think it's the 20th anniversary this year. It runs from the 4th to the 6th of October. I'm always looking for people that are interested in getting involved. There is no funding for it. It is just about everybody coming together to encourage creativity and culture in their spaces and trying to reach new audiences, new people. Even if, you know, the knitting circle normally meets in the village hall, how can we get the knitting circle to just come into the church, or come into our space, or come into the library and just step over the threshold, come into the pub, wherever it is, it's just like that cross-pollination of stuff. It's quite exciting. They've got a website too, obviously.